Hello, everyone. All right, so welcome to our design conversation series for this week. So today we have an architectural topic again. So our topic for today will be the day-to-day application of the architectural design process. And for today, we have architect Fariz Hilmi with us all the way from here, although distance is not a matter nowadays. So architect Fariz, thank you for making time and being able to give this webinar to all our viewers throughout the web. Maybe Architect Farsi, maybe you can give us a bit of introduction about yourself.
Thank you, Mr. Noah Fendi. I'm Fariz Hilmi. I'm from Architect Fariz Hilmi, based in Putrajaya. Now I am a lecturer in Segi University. I also have other businesses besides architecture, but that's not the point for today. Today we just talk about the day-to-day application of architecture design process.
Okay, so what are we talking about when we are talking about the day-to-day application to the about the architectural design process? Maybe you can give a brief description to all our participants so they have a better idea, because some of the viewers here are like Form 5 students, just graduated, so they're not like fully familiar about architectural itself.
Okay, so this is about how we relate all the activities that we are going to do as an architecture student in daily life activities, so that we can relate one thing to another, and then how we can apply general life activity into the architecture education.
All right, that sounds very interesting, Architect Marisami. So maybe we can go ahead with your presentation today.
All right, thank you so much. Okay, so I hope you can see me.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So, welcome to the webinar today. Thank you so much, Equator College, for hosting this webinar tonight.
And thank you for making time.
Okay, so it's day-to-day application of the architecture design process. You also can follow my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Fariz Hilmi.
Oh yeah, as long as we're on that topic, you do quite a lot of videos online, right? Educational videos.
Yes. There's a lot of things that I would like to share, not only on the education, but also in practice, and so many things that related to the architecture law and building law also. But that is different side of the education.
Okay.
Okay, so I shall start now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so as an introduction, design process is the early stage of a whole cycle in an architect's job scope. They are pre-construction, post-construction period, and then post-construction. There are only three scope in architecture design scope. But design process is actually only happening in the pre-construction. In the design process, there are schematic design and design development. There are only two phases in the pre-construction that related to design. The other one, the contract documentation, does not relate to design process.
Okay. So, is there a big difference between schematic design and design development, or are they the same?
Actually, it's not same at all. It is schematic design is more on the sketches, ideas, on all the conceptual things, and also costing already have some ballpark ideas. And then the design development, where you start to be more detailed into the design. When the design has already confirmed, then you will go for much more detailed things like building material, delicate costs of work, and then so many things. And also authority application. There are a few things to do with the submission towards the authority, but that's the ending towards of the design development. But the earlier stage of the design development is the also design process.
Ah, I see. So basically, schematic design is the stage where people basically come up with their concepts, right? Basically, they think
Yep.
about what they want to do, what they want to achieve, and
Mhm.
using this design process, they make it a reality, right?
Yes. Um, for student of architecture, most of their works are in the schematic design.
I
Only
see.
those students in the final year graduating, especially degree, for example, degree and diploma, they are only a little bit touch a little bit part of the design development.
Ah, I see. So basically, most people have I mean, it's quite commonly known that architecture is a very difficult course, right? So it's about 3 years, and then you take an additional 2 years for masters, right? So what you're trying to
Mhm.
say is throughout those 5 years, what we're learning is only the schematic design stage.
Yep, only
And
the schematic design stage.
I see. So
Mhm.
it must mean that this schematic design phase, right, is very complex, yeah?
Um, it depends on one person to another. I cannot say everything is hard because some people can do it very well. All right, so move on to the next one. Okay, so I already have some structure to this webinar tonight. What is design process, the stages of design process, and then creative thinking and how to be creative so that we can be always on the upper side of the work, and then the timeline. All right, so let's start. To create, we must go through design process. Because to create we need to have a lot of ideas, especially idea generation. In idea generation, creative process of generating, developing and communicating new ideas, and then develop a concept that consists of three basic elements of thought, which are visual, concrete and abstract. Okay, all these three are not in order, it doesn't matter in what order. And then this um, element of thought have another stage of thought, which is innovation, development, and abstract. So these are all the design process stage. But okay, maybe it's too complicated. I would like to break down a little bit. Okay, so luckily, all of us have both sides of brain. Why I say like this? Because left side of the brain and right side of the brain actually have different kind of um, thought process, which is on the right side from this diagram shows that on the right side have process info in the differently, and then the way we see is different, and then we are more creative, we use more on the right side brain, and then we also develop a random task method is not orderly compared to the left side. Okay, and then we also always use intuition to communicate. However, on the left side, we always on the left side of the brain, we always process in linear method, and then we organize our thoughts, and we also become more analytical, and then um, always do things in consequential, means in very consequence manner, one, two, three, four, five, and so on, but not on the right side of the brain. Those people who use more on the right side of the brain always think at random time. And then that's how being an architect or being architecture student, you must be balanced of this, because we must organize whatever the way we think. At the same time, you must be creative. So in this manner, we can become better in thinking. But don't worry about which brain are you thinking when you are doing your thought process. It doesn't matter. What matters is that the way you start. Okay, how? They are again, okay, let me rephrase the earlier part of the slide where I show the basic element of thought. Okay, the basic element of thought as an architect, not only architect, but the other kinds of um, design related courses. Okay, the way we do it is they must have visual, which is sketches, drawings, photos, and diagram. And then the concrete part is the logical, the buildable, the solution, and also model. Model is the thing that you do, sculpt, build your own self with your own hand. Why? Sorry. It's because of this model is important so that when you build yourself, whatever you are imagining, you will have the sense of um, size, sense of strength, the sense of quality. So with this, actually, it helps a lot more in terms of idea generation, improving from the visual part, the sketches that you were started off. And then the abstract part. This is the most complicated part, which is the conceptual ideas, the artistic implementation. This actually have so many, it's very wide, it's very mass way to do it. It's not only single linear way. It's not mathematical where you only have a few methods to calculate a few things and then get answer. But as an architect, when you want to do, you have to, when you want to design something, you must think in many directions. However, when you start to do analyzing your design, there will be parameters that will control things that you need to know. For example, the parameters like the size of a space, the size of a volume, or maybe the terrain, it's not flat. You have other elements that actually affecting the way you design. For example, there are rivers or stream, or maybe other natural landscape. These are the things that might help you to analyze and then improve whatever your design so that it is actually become better work. All right. So remember these three elements of thought: abstract, visual, and concrete. All right. So move on to the next one. Stage of thought. Stage of thought. There are three parts also. The innovation, which is the initial design, concept, form making, and sketches. And then the second part is the development, spatial design, structural design, facade, and detail. Then the next one is the actualization, final presentation, and then final model. Okay, these are the stages that actually in order, not like the basic element thought. This is not in order. You may do which one that comes first in your mind. But this one, the stage of thought, is in order: innovation, development, and actualization. All right. So, okay, we already have two things that we are in mind. Okay, number one is the basic element of thought. Number two is stage of thought. Put this in your mind for a while, because there is another part that I would like to tell, share with you all, which is the creative thinking development. This is quite important Oh, sorry. Okay, creative thinking always have a different situation, not directly related to what you do. Always have a lot of ideas. Okay, and then hobby always can help to create unique way to creative thinking, and then the creative thinking also is another important part of solving problems. This is very unique because different way of creative thinking have different solution. This is not mathematical for not for mathematical problems. They are very wide open. There is no limit on how you want to solve a task. Okay. For example, I mentioned here a hobby. Hobby, there is huge things that we are wanna. I would like to share. Um, is because of the way I was, the upbringing of myself. When I was a little, I used to play a lot of origami. It was my childhood game. You know, I always play origami with my sister. Um, do that's what we have. My father gave me a book of origami, and then I just flip it, and then what I want to do today. So I just take paper, sometimes newspaper, sometimes um, scrap papers. I just do following the instruction, and then I play these origami with my sisters as toys, you know. So this alone, actually, I didn't realize that actually this helped me being more creative because after I start, after I finished folded my works, and then I start to innovate a little bit. I'll start to bend this furthermore, change a little bit, invent becomes a little bit different. I would do that, and then in without realizing, actually I created something else. And but you know, as kids, we are just do with our own intuition, very relaxed. As long as we are enjoy doing it, happy, it doesn't matter. It didn't have rules in this. But without thinking, we are actually innovate a lot of things. This is the thing that actually help kids to be uh, improve, to be step up further in many things. But it doesn't matter what are your hobby are, not necessarily to be like me origami, because now I don't do it. But now, like for example, like today I play card games. Um, that is different type of hobby. However, it actually um, there's a lot of different things that you can do, like video games, bicycle activities. You can do so many things. Let me share you another slide. All right, because hobby is things that you know when as a young people you would like to do something that you love so that you keep drive yourself and then keep going and then do because you love this thing, you don't mind spend your money and time doing it. So that actually always producing interesting you know, the creative juice. So how to translate this hobby to be a design process? It's, you know, how do you play games? For example, you play Dota on computer. You got to be fast and accurate. What kind of movements and tactics that you are always be, and then you must always think up further. What is the opponent trying to do against you? With this, you got to be sharp in sense of the way you see things happening in the game, right? So you can see that hand, and then your skills are always on the go. That's how you keep yourself uh, becoming faster, sharper, and then you become better in game. That is
Oh, so
how it is
in your
related back
opinion,
to the design. Yes.
so our skills with our hands, right? It's
Uh-huh.
directly in. I mean, once we improve our drawing skills, our sketching skills, will our creativity improve as well? In your opinion?
Oh, of course, definitely. It's because that um, you must think this way, that your brain is the computer, the CPU, and then your
Okay.
hand is the printer. If it is drawing, then it becomes a printer. But if you're doing model, and it becomes 3D printer. So this thing is the best computer. There is no lagging problems.
But what's your opinion on, let's say that nowadays, right, we live in a very IT heavy world, right? A lot of
Uh-huh.
people are starting to, I wouldn't say forget, but starting to put like manual drafting skills, sketching to the side. They're focusing a lot more on computers. I'm not sure. I've seen cases where, I mean, people don't even sketch anymore nowadays. They straight away go into like 3D modeling in SketchUp. What's your opinion on that? Is that good for our creativity?
All right. Um, I don't want to say it's bad, but it is actually very good, because that's what the industry needs now. However, in the industry, in the industry, um, there are so many parts of job scope that you are going to fill in. We don't know which part of the job scope that you are fit will be fit in. Sometimes you can design and then do design with the computers, but sometimes you have to go to the site and then you have to solve problems, and that is where you need to sketch, because that is the fastest way to solve. You must always solve the problem on site immediately on the spot.
Yeah,
So
for that I
always,
agree with you as
yeah,
well.
that means you
Because I've
must
seen.
be
Oh, sorry.
sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead.
You must use the computer always as a tool, not to be your thinking partner.
So I mean, I've had cases as well. Like people prepare the nicest drawings and everything, and then they go on site, and then they have problems, right? So
Uh
in
huh.
the end, back to pen, paper, draw anywhere you want, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
So
Right. Thank you.
when you have this hand-eye coordination, and then you always sharpen your skill, and then there is always time that you need to upgrade your skills. This is the thing that I'm talking about. When you upgrade your skills knowledge, this is the part where number one, you start with learning the computer, the technology. You or must always catch up this, otherwise it's actually will be burdening you if you don't keep upgrade yourself. um, like the softwares that being used for architects. There are many softwares nowadays, but you must be always catch up with the latest update. And then they are saying in Chinese where you if you want to gain more knowledge, you must
Mm-hmm.
you got to pour it, because your cup of knowledge is small. When you are already full, what you need to do is pour the soup, the knowledge, where somewhere, right? But where the point is, you got to pour it to other friends, your siblings, your students, and then with that you will able to pouring back new knowledge onto yourself. So with this, actually, you can upgrade much faster. So
Okay. All right.
yes, that's why in architecture education, once you already have this, that's why peer learning is very important, because helping each other is the way to make yourself um, upgrade, level up faster. That's how you do in games too, right? For example, like
Yes.
Dota or LOL. When you play, you don't want to be level up alone. You got to be level up together with your team. Otherwise, you will be losing. Correct?
Yeah, true.
Uh-huh.
So, I mean, it's
Okay.
one of the unique aspects of architecture, isn't it? The studio environment about learning from your friends instead of
Mhm.
just learning from a textbook. You're being shaped by your environment, by your friends, by your lecturers as well. Yeah.
Yes, this is the rarest part of education because you got to be um, learn from peers and also lecturers. If you don't learn from peers, you also get behind. You can see the effects. A lot of universities which have architecture as part their architecture. This actually you can see the difference of ways of learning in their students.
Oh, I
Okay, so
see.
what I'm sharing here is the hobby types because I just mentioned in the previous slides where the hobby can also help to boost your creative thinking. So I just put a simple slide, one picture. You can see there are so many types of graphic here, and each graphic have different types of icon and have a lot of different meaning to it. All these are hobbies, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And if you look at it, most of it you got to be um, using your own mind at the same time some coordination, right?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
I agree.
So
So,
this is the point that I'm saying. The life actually can be directly related to design process.
all right. So, so for example, you're saying that by having a good design process, by integrating it as part of ourselves, right, it'll flow over into our life as a whole, right, into our hobbies, into our attitude and whatnot. Yeah.
Yep. If you watch a movie, if you watch a movie, Prestige,
The
by
Prestige, yes.
yes,
Christopher
Hugh
Nolan.
Jackman and yes, Hugh Jackman and apa nama Christian
uh,
Bale.
yes, Batman
That is,
versus Wolverine.
yes, that is a part where there is a part where they split before they were partners, right? And then they split. Why they
Yes.
split is because of different types, different thinking. You know,
Yeah.
the way they think is differently. So and then Christian Bale suddenly bring his twin to be
Yes.
his partner
Part
in
of his
crime.
act. Yeah.
Yes. And then it becomes his own life, two-person sharing one life. This is the thing that I'm talking about, where you um, share your life. You merge the hobby into your life.
All right. So basically,
Uh-huh.
making it, I mean, blurring the definitions between hobby, work, and life, is it? So making it all as one, using
Yes,
it everywhere.
yes. Actually, it can make yourself become unique, make yourself to be something that nobody can copy. For
Okay.
example, like yeah, just a quick example. For example, like this guitar here.
All right.
Um,
Music, right?
yes, represents music. If you understand music very well, and then you try to merge your music knowledge into architecture design, you will have a lot of creative thinking, ways of thinking into designing. Um, you can talk about rhythm, and then talk about um, wavelengths, because music there are wavelengths, right?
Yeah.
And then those wavelengths are beautiful lines. The way the lines are being drawn in the wave, actually, if you start to translate into forms, because wavelengths actually is not linear. It can be translated into 3D, right? Because
Yes. Correct.
music do not have only one instrument. Usually they have 3 to 5 instruments.
Yeah. Even an orchestra with like nearly hundreds, right?
Yes, with that, when you start to, you project all these wavelengths, become a form, and then if you can manipulate these into a design, how fantastic it is.
So wouldn't you even say that by having all these topics, like just now we were saying about music, right? So by
Mm-hmm.
having a good understanding of music, you spend a lot of time in a studio environment, or like what I would say, like cooking, right? We have that chef's hat right there, right? So by cooking a lot, right, you understand the particular needs of the space as well, right? Would that help?
Yeah.
Like you understand, like, okay, I know that when I cook, I need my things to be here, I need my tap to be here, I want an island to make it easier for me to do my things. That would help them in their design process as well, yeah.
Yes, actually, the understanding of subject matter makes you an expert, and then you become a lot better in terms of knowledge. So I just want to share here there are a few types of hobby: general hobby, education hobby, collection hobby, or competitive hobby, and lastly observation hobbies. These are different types of hobby. If you look into it, there are hundreds of hobby, different types in these segments. And then how to differentiate it? One is outdoor, one is indoor. Mhm.
Ah,
So
okay.
yeah, actually there are hundreds, maybe thousands of different types of hobbies. Just but this is the simplest I would say category that I can simplify.
Would you say that some people who are creative, right? Some people like to say like, oh, you're creative, you must have like this kind of hobby, or you're creative, so you must have like maybe you do a lot of painting. Do you think that's conversely related, like directly related, or is it just what people perceive?
That is, it's because um, basic perception of creative is you can draw. That's
Yes.
actually not necessarily true because being the best problem solver, sometimes your drawings can be ugly, but as long as the message um, can be transferred, yeah. So why it's not necessary to have good drawings, right? As long
Yeah.
as you can solve problems,
So
it
like you
doesn't
were
matter.
saying just
Yeah.
now, right? Like the hand is
Mm.
basically just a printer to communicate our ideas, basically sending the our ideas from our CPU, right, directly to our
Mm-hmm.
hand, paper.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't need to look nice, right? I think there's
Yep.
quite a few famous architects who, if the general layman would look at the sketches, they would think, oh, this is drawn by a kindergartner, right? I think some would say
Yeah.
Frank Gehry would be one of them. Like his scribbles are very distinctive, right? Some would say,
Yes.
"Oh, this is like a kindergarten just drew it," right? But it
Yeah.
communicates the idea, so that's the point, right?
Yes. That's the important point. And then it's because of, for example, that you mentioned Frank Gehry. He's he already has all the 3D things in mind. It's just that that's how he's drawing. Some people say ugly, but the staff need to understand that kind of that. Okay, that is different part of design process. That you must understand your client's needs, your boss needs, right? So
Yep.
that is another different training. But but yeah, I really love the way siapa nama
Gary.
Gary just now. Yeah, he is fantastic because his idea is always about framing the movements, and that's how his architecture is always very dramatic.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
agree. But what's your opinion on some people having the perception that, oh, to go into arts, like, or for example, to go into architecture, right, you need to be able to draw well, like you need to be able to draw well, make it seem like fine art level. What's your opinion on that?
Um, okay. For school students who wants to go into architecture, at least must to make yourself easier to go into architecture. Please take um, pendidikan seni, art in your
Yes,
SPM.
pendidikan seni.
No matter how is your grade, it doesn't matter as long as you take it. If you don't, then your chance to join architecture school is very very low. Okay, it means mark doesn't matter at that point. It doesn't matter because pendidikan seni in SPM Malaysia, they are very wide in terms of
Scope.
scope. Not only drawings, they are a lot of different projects that you can choose. which one is your you got to be know yourself, which is your strength, right? And push your strength to the best.
Ah,
Because
okay.
because um, in the end they gave marks on whatever you are submitting, not necessarily drawings. But as for me, yeah, I was the old school part where there is only drawings. No, there's no such thing as projects.
Oh,
So
okay.
yeah, that's my time during taking SPM. So that's how I have to go. I must polish my drawing skills.
Ah, okay.
All right. So go back to the if you don't know how to draw, how can you go enter into architecture school? Actually, um, if you are directly go to the Equator College, I believe you can enter architecture without solid knowledge of drawing. But
Yeah, because we have
um,
a good foundation within their first year. They get to polish up, build up a portfolio even.
yeah, the thing is, drawing is the first way to communicate. If you notice, when you look at this picture in this slide, bicycle is in English, in Malay, basikal, in Arab, I don't know, and in other languages, it doesn't matter. But when you see this icon, bicycle, no matter what kind of language, they know that is bicycle, right?
So basically, the image transcends language barriers, right? You just show an image,
Yes,
you show it to one guy in America, to Korea, to Malaysia, anywhere they know it's the same thing.
yes. So that's why learning to draw is also important. Although you don't know how to draw, let the course guide you to draw better.
Yes, I
Communication,
actually
yes,
this is like perfectly my case. Like before I went into architecture, I don't took I don't take arts. I think in like form one, form two, I even failed art like once, twice. I don't even remember. But obviously
uh-huh.
throughout my studies back then, I mean the lecturers helped a lot. We had to build up a portfolio. I think we went to
Yes.
the same school. We had the same teachers, so
Mhm.
they managed to teach us be better, right? Before this, I
Yes.
couldn't even draw. Now I can do well enough to communicate my ideas at least.
Uh-huh. Yes. As long as you can communicate using drawing, that is the best way to go. Because again, drawing is a lot faster than try to communicate verbally or writing. Because I can't remember what was it was 2004, I think, when I
Hmm.
went to Japan, and I don't know how to speak to Japanese in Japan language,
Ah, yeah.
So yeah, I bring a small notebook, empty notebook, and I draw, and then I show I want to eat this fish. I want to eat fish, and then I just do gesture. So that is how I communicate to Japanese at that time. They don't understand English.
Yeah. Last time we didn't have Google Translate yet. Yeah.
Yes,
No
yes.
such
So
thing.
that's
Yeah.
how I do survive that.
Ah, okay.
All right. So let's move on. To timeline. Okay, so we already know that basically that you need certain things. Okay, I mentioned here innovation, development, and actualization. This is the thing that you going to learn in architecture school. This is in order, and then the abstract, concrete, and visualization not necessarily in order, but this is uh, most of the time in this kind of order. So in the innovation, you actually start with initial idea, concept, and form making. Form making you will do with so many things. Form making you can do with cardboards, plasticine, or just clay, or maybe wires, meshes, papers, so many things. As long as you have idea, you wanna do it. If it is you can't draw, make it form making models. You can do it. And
So
then the development part, spatial design, structure design, facade detail, and so many things. This is where your lecturer guide you how to be the architect that you are trying to do. And then the last one is final presentation. This is the actualization where you give the final work. So in this timeline, I give 1 week, 4 week, and 2 weeks. This is an example of, I think, um, first year, first semester, or first year, second semester final project, usually 6 to 7 weeks, right?
Yep,
So this kind
about the
of
same as us.
timing is actually just nice. You don't have to dwell too long in the innovation part, because the development part is the most important, and then the
So,
actualization
in your
is also.
opinion, sorry.
Mhm.
So why does design development, in your opinion, take such a long time compared to the initial idea phase? Like here, it's 1 week, right? So design
Mhm.
development takes up to 4 weeks. So you would think that, oh, this is 4 times longer. So there's a lot of thought that you have to put into it, right? So what's the thing, I guess, that makes it takes up so much time?
Okay, innovation part. This is the wild card that you got to control. It is because um, ideas, they are limitless. You will never stop thinking of new ideas. But as an architect, you must have a discipline to stop where you think that's the best, with certain limit, because you have important part, which is to build. Of course, you are not building any buildings during your student works, but you got to do something that is constructible, right? With this, that's why you need longer time, where this is the part where lecturers help you understanding how is the spatial design work, how the structure design support the space, and then facade and so on.
So in
And
your
the last.
opinion, if
Mhm.
students, for example, right, even in terms of exploring ideas, right, they need to be able to know when to stop, right, instead of just endlessly exploring ideas, idea A, idea B, idea C. At one point they need to be able to say, okay, I have to stop here. If I don't
Mhm.
stop here at the end of this 6 7 weeks of study, I don't have like a complete scheme, right? I just have concepts, 10 20 different concepts, but nothing is fleshed out. So we
Yep.
need to let, I mean, the students need to know when to stop.
Yes. It's not only student learn to know, learn to stop, but listen to the lecturer. If lecturer say stop design, focus on the design development, because your lecturer knows better. Yes, this is how I always wanted to relate between life and then education, because whatever in your life is actually in the game. For example, I would love to relate this with game. I believe this is the easiest analogy to relate to young people. Game, the way you start, the way you leveling up is the first maybe 4 to 5 levels, and
Yeah.
then the end of the 2 levels where you need to finish the game, where you got to hit the best powers and all, right?
Yeah.
That is the time you do it only very short time, and then quickly end the game.
So
The
the
very
build up is more important than the end.
Yes, this is the thing that many students actually fail to see, that the development part is so important. You need longer time compared to
I
the
think
idea.
I think we've seen like I think maybe you're familiar with cases like, for example, you students don't show anything within the first few weeks, and then at the end they show like a good sample work, and then but they still, I wouldn't say fail, but they don't have a complete scheme. That happens as well, does it?
Yes, there are a lot of students like that, because the actually is the spatial design, the interaction between space one and two, flow, space flow. There are so many things that are not well done, not well designed. This is
So
the thing that they thought they know, but they don't remember the manners of learning. You must learn from your sifu, your lecturer, your mentor, not self-learn.
so basically what they have is just surface level, right? It looks nice, but the content just isn't there. They open the
Mhm.
box, inside the box is empty.
Yes. Wow effects is only to um, as like a finishing touch. It's not the real cake. It's the icing. All those beautiful things is just icing. You scrap the icing, what you see is the cake, and then if it is not nice to eat, you won't eat it. right?
Yes. But if the cake is nice, even if the icing doesn't look great in the end, it's functional, right? People can eat the
Yeah,
cake at least.
yes, it's still edible, right?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Okay, this is an example of a short-term timeline. Let's see what about the long-term timeline. In the long-term timeline, you have certain numbers of semester in one, probably, for example, in this slide, I use degree. Okay, so one semester of foundation, 4 semester of degree, and then 2 semester of final year. Means that 3.5 years to do architecture. So with this, actually, the first semester of foundation is your innovation and abstract, where you find your identity, your strength and weakness, and then what kind of architecture style that you like, and then what kind of love that you do. Love in design is actually very wide. It's up to you how you choose your path, but sometimes you can find it now at the first semester, but sometimes you find it near the end. But it doesn't matter as long as you find that's good. And then the 4th semester of the degree, first year and second year degree, this is the development, the visualization of the part, also concrete can be done that way. Where this is just example that I would like to share. Develop one architecture style to all kinds of projects. Why
So
I say like this?
basically, oh, yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. Why I say like this? One architecture style in all kinds of projects. That's what the master architect, star architect did. Zaha Hadid, for example, she only did the um,
Parametric.
it's not parametric, it's the deconstruction at
Ah,
the start.
deconstruction. Okay, yes.
Yes, she only do deconstruction from entering the school until she graduated, and then even first building also is um, the Vitra fire station, also a deconstruction building, right? So with that, actually propels her career. But what makes her become parametric is that the final representation, where she start to get a lot of jobs. She joined partners with siapa nama Peter Schumacher.
With Michael, I think.
Ah, Michael
Yeah.
Schumacher. No, Peter
I
Schumacher.
don't know. Cuma kerja sangat.
Okay, her partner actually is the one that actually makes her design becomes more fluid, more parametric. Before that, it was um, very rough deconstruction. So the technology actually helped to improve. The design becomes very futuristic and always step up from the other people.
Ah,
So this is
okay.
the
So,
thing that I want to share.
ah, okay. So, in your opinion, right? I
Mhm,
mean, throughout their studies, right? I think it's like 3 years, right? 3 years and a half, right?
mhm.
They should use that time to build an identity, right? Find out who they want to be as an architecture student and as a person at the same time. Yeah,
Yep.
do you agree?
Mhm.
So throughout this time, would you agree that they should explore multiple different architectural styles to see which one resonates with them, right? Which one they feel like brings out their character that they can communicate with.
Yes, I agree with you. Sometimes learning different kinds of architecture also good. um, is because of sometimes you know sometimes you don't choose your clients, right?
Yes.
If your client say I want classical building or traditional architecture, you must have the knowledge to do. However, um, in my case in tonight's webinar, my idea is about architecture is about timestamp, you know, where um, time, for example, today is 2021, the technology is 2021 technology.
Yes.
The culture is 2021. It's not 1700 or the
Even
Middle Age,
longer. Middle Ages, yeah.
So, yeah, so you got to be precise on that. The
Uh,
technology, the culture For example, in Malaysia, our culture now is very diverse and very diluted, not have a strong, um, prominent culture, Malay or Indian or Chinese. We don't have that anymore. We are very well blended Malaysian culture, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Especially in architecture, we can accept um, very our own unique architecture style in Malaysia. So 2020 have different ideas in architecture. 2021 might have different acceptance of cultural, um,
Yeah.
architecture.
Okay. So, in your opinion, architecture in Malaysia as well, right, has been, it's all become one, right? It's all multiracialized, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Whoever designers in Malaysia, they are actually already have that kind in mind. You must able to uh, be um, be harmonized to all races in Malaysia. We have a lot of races, not only
Yeah.
in the peninsula, in Sabah and Sarawak also have their own culture. So we must be more ubiquitous in that manner, so that
Ah,
it didn't. It's not only for certain type of people.
okay. So making sure, wouldn't that come into play when we're designing our spaces as well, right? So when we design our spaces, wouldn't you think that we're designing not just for one race in particular, right? We have to design for everyone. So, like for example, what I would tell my students, okay, even though you're not, let's say you're not Malay, you're not Chinese, you need to understand the needs of your other friends so that you can become a better designer. Would you agree with that?
Yes, that is very important. But that's not the only thing about culture, but also respecting the local climate. Local
Uh,
climate also very important.
yes, regionalism, yeah.
Yes, because in Malaysia we experience raining every other day. Sometimes we experience autumn every other day, right? So we
Yes.
can't do flat roof design. It's actually cannot be. It's not. It's a total failure. We should do flat roof all the way.
But I think
So
a lot of students like to do flat roofs, though, isn't it?
um, in my opinion, they just don't know how to draw
Mhm.
roof. I'm sorry, I have to say that, but that's the reality.
I think quite a lot of students are in the opinion as well. They like to design in a bubble environment. Would you agree? Like
Uh-huh.
they keep forgetting that we're staying in Malaysia. Every other day, every 1 week, it's gonna rain. So they design spaces or buildings without car porches. Right? Not considering, okay, if it rains, does the building still function? Which to me, I think it's very important, right? I mean, in Malaysia, it's gonna rain out of 360 days, at least one third, at least one half sometimes. So,
Yep.
making sure your building functions perfectly during rain, as it does when it's not raining, is super important.
Yep. That's the trick part. When you designing in Malaysia context, is because of um, students design total seal building. That is the wrong part. You must actually be more what's that um, where where to be. You must respect the natural ventilation of Malaysia, because it's um, our climate is very humid, right? So
Yes.
if you design a sealed building where every glasses are actually um, fixed glass, you know, you're actually allowing hot sun entering the building, but you didn't allow natural ventilation to reduce it. It didn't work that way. You must able to respect those things.
Uh, so I think a very good example of this kind of buildings, right? Wouldn't it be like our traditional Malay houses or traditional shop houses, right, with louvers all around, louvered doors,
Uh-huh.
louvered windows to allow
Yep.
maximum ventilation to come in?
Yes. Okay. Even though you are not Malay, but doesn't mean that you must design Malay buildings just to make it naturally ventilated. No matter what kind of design, you can do naturally ventilated building, even though it is um, what Santiago Calatrava style or Frank Gehry style. It doesn't matter. As long as you know how to naturally ventilate your building, it actually works in
That's
Malaysia. But in other country, depends, because if you have a four season, you have snow, then you must know how to design. It makes it seal. That's a very important part of the designing.
so when we design, right? I think we can agree that one of the most important things is the climate, right? How we respond
Mhm,
to our surrounding climate as well.
mhm, mhm. Yep,
So I
very
think quite
important.
a lot of people think like some architects tends to be a bit more egotistical, right? They just design without thinking about the surrounding people, the surrounding climate as well. So I think that's what's your opinion on that as well?
Um, Eventually, I don't want to how to say this. It's the way many architects design now, actually they simply follow authority requirement, but I won't say it that way, because I might be wrong saying that way, but I believe one part is authority requirement and the other part is design. You got to be balanced on these two. At the same time, you have climate and so many things, right? So um, balancing out is important. So I don't say that architects mainly don't respect the climate. I believe they do. It's the different perception of people think differently.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So uh, as of now, I believe that's all for my lecture. I mean webinar tonight. You can subscribe my Instagram or Facebook or YouTube.
Okay. All right.
Thank you
So
so much.
thank you.
Yeah, yeah. Now I believe we can open the for Q&A session if there are Q&A session.
All right. So thank you, Architect Parsimi. So I think we can open up the questions to the floors to see if anyone have any questions. So we give it a few minutes for them to come up with their questions if there is any. So,
Uh,
Architect Parsimi, what's your opinion on the architecture profession nowadays? As we're talking about, a lot of people are thinking that there's nothing left in the construction field. Like architecture is slowing down. There's not much work going on. What's your opinion on that? So a lot of people are reluctant to take architecture.
okay. Um, Architects are always being very innovative. Architects are always trained to solve problems, no matter time or constraint. So, although now the situation with COVID-19, we are actually experiencing slow of construction period. However, architects are always keep thinking to solve um, problems, especially obeying the SOP.
All
So
right.
what? Yes, in I believe many universities now already implement COVID-19 situation as part in their education brief, um, in design especially, so that the students keep innovating how to design with passive, at the same time save cost, or still comfortable at the same time following the SOP, means that we will not um, gonna make other people to get fined every other day. That's what architects always do now. Even in real world now, they are developers also start to um, put this in their brief, the design brief.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to comply with SOP is because, for example, like now we are in a full PKP MCO where you have to work at home, right? So, for example, a house, right? You have to design a house with uh, all the bedrooms, living rooms, kitchen, toilets. But now you got to add one more study room, real study room for students, for kids, and then
Oh, okay.
for parents who are working at home. So you
Oh yeah,
must have
especially
that
with like
dedicated.
yeah, especially I think yesterday, was it today? 20th. So yesterday, yeah, schools open, right? I think that a lot of
Yes,
people are sharing like, oh, their kids have to like study. One person has to study at the living room, one dining room,
home.
one living room, just like everywhere.
Yes. So this is the thing that architects must always innovative at the same time, um, be creative to solve problems, because like I said, each of us do not have single answer. You must have different answer from mine, right?
Yes.
So this is the thing that's the beauty of architects, where no answers are wrong, all are actually good, but it's the acceptance of the end user. If the end user felt that, okay, this master bedroom is too small because you are accommodating too many study room, maybe. So yeah, that's what happened. You got to be careful with that lah. But I
Uh,
believe all of us are working hard towards that now.
okay. All right. Thank you, Faris. So I
Yeah.
believe we don't have any questions from the floor. So I'll
Ah,
take this opportunity to thank you. Okay, so actually, thank you for spending over an hour educating us and sharing with us, right, about the day-to-day application of the architectural design process. So thank you. Any closing words, Architect Harris?
closing words. Okay, for those who are students who are felt that wanted to join architecture, but I make sure when you want to join this course, you must know, number one, this course is the hardest um, course in the world. Number two, nobody force you to do this. This is important. It's because of once you join this, there is no turning back. And yeah,
Bring it for
the
life.
struggle
Yeah.
is real. Yeah, the struggle is real, but the reward actually a lot, especially job opportunity. This is the point that I would like to have. I probably might have different session with this, because job opportunity, once you graduate architecture education, job opportunity actually very wide. Not necessarily you must be architect, but you can be other things, because you already learn all types of problem solving methods, right? Of course, you
Yes.
can't be engineer when you become a graduate architect, but at least you can understand, structures, basic lightings, and so on. So there are things that you can have some knowledge there.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again. So guys, I think that shall be it for us today. So we'll see you guys again during our next webinar series. All right, guys.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Have a
Thank
good night.
you.
Uh-huh.